Hey Matthew, how's it going, man?
Brandon,
Hello.
hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I guess I'll just hit the ground running. Kick-Ass 2. When working on a film of this sort, the sort being in the superhero realm, how do you create the themes for the characters, particularly when those said characters are superheroes? Because I mean, you have to appease the not only the epicness of that character, but also complement kind of the spectacle of what they're capable of, especially with Hit Girl.
You know, good question. We really lucked out with the sequel on this one because Henry Jackman had written such a great tune for Kick-Ass for the first film.
Right.
Now I can't really speak for him as far as his process of developing tunes or anything, but as far as the second one, when we were thinking about our new two big ideas that we had to have, which were one for our villain Chris and one for Hit Girl. The conversations that we had with the director really revolved around instead of just looking at a blank canvas and composing something for them, it was, well, let's put ourselves in their shoes and think of what do they think of themselves, and who do they picture themselves to be, and it was really a perspective angle that we had to come at writing the tunes from thinking of it from their perspective.
Okay. All right. Well, jumping off of that, I believe that I read that you had two themes for Mindy, aka Hit Girl. So with that said, does having two themes have something to do with Mindy's dual life as a teenager as well as a superhero? Because I spoke with Jeff back at Comic-Con, and he was talking about how he, made it well, I guess the thing that was different with the sequel is that he's focusing a lot on Mindy growing up as a teenager.
Yeah, she's her story in this film is, I mean, we already know that she's Hit Girl. We already know kind of that aesthetic of her life, and
Right.
in this film we get to look at her with a whole new kind of pair of glasses, in that she's each and every one of us. You know what I mean? Like, she is this 15, 16-year-old girl that's in high school and going through all the BS that everyone does. Kind of, I always say it's like a little bit of a rite of passage going through that, because it's a time of your life when you're really figuring yourself out physically and mentally and emotionally, and fitting in with people, and there's hormones and worrying about what other people think of you and trying to fit in, and so she's going through something that every one of us can relate to, especially that part of our life. So I think that having a couple different musical ideas for her too, one that's really simple, and her tune a lot of the times is played on the piano, which it's like, why come up with something crazy for her? The piano is something that everyone knows, everyone can relate to. It's a comfortable sound for most people, and and then when she's Hit Girl, it's like you could be this alternate person for her, this really aggressive vigilante.
Okay. All right. In addition, with aside from Hit Girl, how did you approach the theme Kick-Ass?
Well, the theme for Kick-Ass was already established from the first movie, and we really, in discussions with Matthew Vaughn and Jeff, our director, we really decided that we're not going to try to reinvent the wheel and come
Okay.
up with new themes for Kick-Ass or anything. We already had that, and it worked really well. It's like, this is a sequel; it's not necessarily a reboot, so why would we, come up with a whole new idea for him? However, we have a whole entire entourage of superheroes now,
Right.
Justice Forever, and so I think the idea, throughout the whole process was to see autos. We have new harmonies surrounded it. There's a lot more, guitars and drums and more contemporary band-esque instruments, supporting the big brass fanfares that are any superhero, and in this case, Kick-Ass.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you were talking about it a little earlier. You were talking about Chris's character, and I remember reading that with Chris's character, you decided that you want to incorporate not only some hip hop but also some rock to kind of illustrate his transition from where we saw him in the first film to like the mega baddie or the mega villain or super villain that he's become in this new film. And I think I also understand that you approached it almost as if he was aware of his own theme or his own soundtrack as if he was listening to it on headphones. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The funny juxtaposition with his character is that if you look at the guy and you look at what he's wearing in the movie, the character, Chris he's not this massive bodybuilder, or he, you know what I mean, and he's wearing this kind of leather gimp suit throughout the whole entire film, which is visually just, you can't help but not, laugh a little bit at it. But in his mind, he's like the dark overlord of the universe, So we had another example of us having to play it from his perspective, But because it's set in contemporary times and we're not dealing with, flying through space or in the jungles, a la like Indiana Jones or something, we decided to, what's he actually listening to? What kind of music does he like? And if he were in a band, what would him be playing? So it was kind of this fusion between, having something that we could have that was really dark while supporting it with guitars and drums and bass and different more contemporary instruments supporting it. So we were able to, I think, find a good balance of making him seem as serious as he could in his own mind, with still having a little musical wink and having some fun with the whole process.
Okay, all right.
It's a little bit of a lesson in restraint, like I was saying, because when you're dealing with something that's a little bit more of a traditional tension, soundscape, the slightest move can either give something away too early or not at the right moment, or you can be too delicate with things. So it's a little bit more micromanaging of moments in a way.
Okay, all right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to hearing some of your other scores with the films to come.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's been a pleasure.
All right.